All right, welcome back, guys. This is our next topic under compute in the cloud. So this topic is overview of AWS messaging service. Before we go deeply into the service, which is AWS messaging services, let's first look at application architecture overview. Application, just like infrastructure, comprise multiple components. The components communicate with each other for different reasons, such as sharing of data, fulfill customers' requests, monitor and keep the application running. The breakdown of one of these components will most likely result in the failure of the entire application. This is called tightly coupled components and the application. This kind of application architecture is called monolithic application. The application component might include the servers, database, storage, business logic, user interface, which is front end, and so on. The failure of a single point or single component in a tightly coupled monolithic application could result in the failure of the entire application. What does this mean? Most applications initially, before, when company creates applications, this application, like most of the application that you use, maybe your Netflix, your Amazon, most of the applications that you use, the architecture look like this. They comprises multiple resources or multiple components. You have the front end where user go to, like the web server. You have the back end. That's when remember our coffee website, we have a front end that you can see what we offer. Then behind the front end, if you put your ATM card, maybe you want to buy coffee online, it's going to send your credit card to the back end, which is the application or the logic. The back end is going to process your credit card and make sure it is valid, meaning that you are not providing a wrong credit card. Then once it is valid, it's going to send your information to be stored in our database. Then the database keep your information. And this front end too, we have some pictures and videos that is running on the front end. Those pictures and videos, they are not on the same server as the file that is displaying the website. They are stored on a different server called storage server. Storage server. So all of these components, and we have other components too that makes application run effectively, like the messaging. When you buy coffee, it sends you an alert or a receipt. So that is like a messaging. So there are multiple components that makes the application work effectively. But the problem is most of these applications, they are deployed or configured together, or they are created together as a giant application. So what does that mean? It means that if one of these components break down, maybe when the user wants to buy coffee, he puts in his credit card, but the application that is going to process the credit card is not currently working. Maybe there is a bug. Then guess what is going to happen? It will stop the user from being able to proceed. And in some cases too, it's going to make this backend application that is not working, it's going to make the front end also to go down. This one too will not work. So at the end of the day, all this, none of them is going to work. So this is what is called tightly coupled application. They are tightly coupled with each other. I mean, tightly coupled components, meaning that the failure of one results resulted in the failure of everyone or every other one. So this kind of architecture where all the applications are tightly coupled with each other is called the monolithic application. So monolithic application is what we have before. But because of the challenges of monolithic application, companies tend to find solutions to that. So this is how monolithic application looks in a more precise diagram. We have all the, like a giant box, that we have the component, which is the server, component 1, component 2, which is database, component 3, which is business logic, and component 4, which is the front end. So all of them, they are together. If component 1 is not working, it's going to affect all other ones. They will not work. So in order to avoid this, the industry introduced microservices. So microservices is just an approach whereby we break the tightly coupled components into a separate component of their own. And this process is what we refer to as loosely coupled, which means that no one component is coupled with another. They work differently. If component 1 is not working, is not stopping component 2, is not stopping component 4, or is not stopping component 5 or 3. If it is component 4 that is not working, it's not going to affect component 1. So all of them are communicating, are working differently. But the way they are still be able to, or the way they are still able to communicate together is that there is other components in between that is sending, when this one is ready for this one, is going to send a message. It's going to send a message like, hey, component 2, come, I'm ready for you. Then the component 2, we come to this place, we get the information and we go and process it. And the same thing go between all of them like this. So no one of them is actually tied to the second one. And this is what they call microservices, and this is what most companies use these days. So in AWS, there are a lot of services that help us to turn a tightly coupled application into a microservices or a loosely coupled application. And one of the services is called SNS, System Notification Message. If we go back to this previous diagram, I said when this message is ready, maybe this message process a communication or process something, it can send message to this, like, hey, come, I'm ready, your information you need is ready. It's just sending messages. So the SNS is now the service that we use to send out messages from one to another. So the simple service notification, the simple notification messaging, which is called SNS in AWS, is an Amazon Web Services that automate the process of sending notification to the subscriber attached to it. The way the SNS work is that it uses what we call pull and push. Publish and subscribe, which is called pub and sub, public and subscribe. So let's say two components want to communicate. Component A want to communicate with component B. And it also want to communicate to users, maybe the admin. Let's say this is component A. And this is component B. And it can be resources as well, resources A, resources B. And this is user. Let's call this user admin. So in between this component and all these three components, we're going to have our SNS. So the way the SNS is going to work is that this component A, we create a topic here. Like, okay, I want to notify people that my service is available, or I want to notify people that my report that I generated is available. So it's going to create a topic here. And anytime the report that he wants to send is available, it's going to send that report under this topic, like a box. It's going to send the report inside this topic. So all these other components, which is component B and component A, the way they are going to get this topic or the report from this topic is that they have to subscribe to that topic. So that anytime the report, component A send a report to the topic, SNS will send that report to them because they subscribe to it. It's just like you subscribe to a newsletter. Anytime the owner of the newsletter publish an article, guess what? You receive the article because you subscribe for it. So this process of the component A sending reports to the topic, of component A sending reports to the topic, and the component B and the user subscribing is what is called the pub-sub architecture. So when somebody asks you what architecture does SNS use, it use a pub-sub. Publish, meaning that the application or component A publish its report to SNS on that topic, then the users or the component B subscribe to that topic. So that is called pub-sub. Publish, subscribe. So one way we can use this is that, let's say you create a server, and that server is not working very well. Or let's say your load balancer. Remember, one of the services that the load balancer can do is that it can check the health check or F check of our server. So if the load balancer check a server head and you see that, oh, the server is not responding, guess what? The load balancer might want to notify you, the admin of the system. So the way the load balancer is going to notify you is that it's going to send an SNS to you. But before you can actually send that SNS, both the load balancer must have a topic on the SNS, and you, the admin, must subscribe to that topic. And the topic title might be server down. So anytime server is down, which means it's not, the F check is not responding, the load balancer is going to publish message to the SNS, and the SNS is going to send that to you. So that is how companies send alerts. If you hear, oh, we receive alerts of a down system, that is what happened behind the scene. So if you read this, a load and Amazon simple notifications messages, which is normally referred to as AWS SNS. This is not W, this is N. SNS. If you hear SNS, SNS, that's what I mean. So it's a managed AWS service. You know what is called managed service? Those are the services that you are not responsible for the infrastructure. Remember the other day that somebody was asking what are the difference between IAAC, PAAC, and SAAC. So these simple notification services might be categorized under this. Because you are not responsible for the infrastructure that the simple notification is using, because behind the scene is using a server itself. It has a own server, but you are not responsible for that. It has an application that is running, that is sending message, receiving the message. You are not responsible for that. All you are responsible for is just to use it. So there is another service that is kind of look like simple notification. But let's just go to the console. Let's create a simple notification and let's just test it out. Let's go for a demo. Let's see how the simple notification, how do we configure it on AWS, on AWS console. So what I want to do is, let me see which of these service can I use with SNS. Let me see auto scaling. Can I use auto scaling with SNS? Start monitoring. Yeah, I can actually use it with SNS, but it's going to take some configuration, which I don't want to go to right now. So let's first go and create our SNS. Don't worry, I'll show you what that means. Just type SNS, then it's going to show you simple notification service. So remember, we have to create a topic. So let's call the topic down server. And I'm going to pick the standard, and the topic is going to be server down. I'm going to leave all the other configuration the way it is. All of them, I can discuss them under advanced, but for now, I'm okay with just basic configuration. And you can see all of them are optional too. So I create okay, you have to be together. I create a topic called down. So this topic now. Whoever wants to receive notification when a message is published to this topic, the person must subscribe. So let's assume that I want to be receiving notification, then I have to subscribe to this. So how do you subscribe? You just go to create subscription. You can see it is this topic that I'm subscribing to. So for you to subscribe, you have to pick one of the protocol. It's either do you want to receive an email or you want to receive an SMS? And there are other things too that you can use to send messages. But because of this, I'll be using email. Then I'm going to type my email there. Then I create subscribe. So now, once you create a subscribe, it's going to be pending. Then you have to go to that email that you use. You have to go and confirm that you actually subscribe. So I'm going to open the email behind the scene, but I will still show you the message, but I don't want you to see all my messages. So if you can see, AWS notification subscription confirmation, it sent this message to me. Then all I just need to do is to click on confirm subscription and look at it. It's confirmed. So if you go back to the AWS, if you refresh this, it's going to show that the confirmation was successful. You see, confirmed. So now, anytime a message is published to this topic, I will receive notification. We can test it by saying publish messages. I just say test one, test two. I just say this is a test messages. So it's me that is doing this, but in reality, it's going to be an application or a services that is, or a service that is going to be sending the publish, that is going to be publishing the message. When we get to where, like under the logging and monitoring, you will see a lot of this because that is one way that we use notification a lot. So if I go back to that email, let me open it again. I close it. You will see the message that I sent. Okay. You can see it here. This is for the server, and this is for the message, AWS notification. And you can see, if I open this, no, that is the, hold on, let me put it back. I don't refresh it. I said this. But this is not actually needed. Anyway, let me cancel that. Just send. Let me see publish messages. It's not displaying, but it will actually come. Might just take some time. So I will still show you later in how we connect it to an application. Let's see. Yeah, it's not showing now, but it will actually come. It might just take some time. Might take some time, but it will actually come. So let's go back. Yeah, I can't wait for it anymore. So let's go back. So that is simple notification. So a service, for example, this component will send a notification to this component, and we're going to see that later. I promise you that in multiple ways. So how one service will send notification to another service or to a user. And one of the area that we're going to test that is under login and monitoring. This is a very big topic in security. So the next topic that I want us to look at